Okay, so let's talk about a phrase you've probably heard a million times online. One that really tries to capture a feeling that is so 21st century: brain rot. It's the big question, right? Is the internet actually rotting our brains? I mean, it hits on a very real, very modern anxiety that a lot of us have. We spend so much of our lives online, but what is it really doing to us? Let's start with what it actually feels like. Take a look at these. Do any of them hit a little too close to home? That feeling where your mind just feels slow and heavy? You can't concentrate to save your life? You feel exhausted even when you've had plenty of sleep? And of course, the endless, mindless scrolling. It's a feeling a lot of us know really, really well. So, what exactly is this thing we're calling brain rot? Let's break it down and get a really clear definition. At its core, brain rot is basically that mental fog, that exhaustion and lethargy you feel after spending way too much time consuming tons of low quality, super fast, and often just plain absurd internet content. It's that feeling of being totally overloaded and mentally fried. And get this is not just some niche internet slang anymore. It has gone completely mainstream. In fact, it's so widespread and relevant that Oxford, yes, that Oxford, actually named brain rot its 2024 word of the year. Wow. But this is way more than just a vague feeling. There's some real science happening in our brains here. And that brings us to what a lot of people are calling the dopamine trap. And it really all boils down to one super powerful chemical: dopamine. You've heard of it, right? It's basically our brain's internal reward signal. It's that little chemical that says, hey, that was good, let's do it again. Now, here's the crucial part to understand. Not all dopamine is created equal. You have what you could call slow dopamine, the kind you get from earned, meaningful activities like exercise, reading a good book, or having a deep conversation. And then you have fast dopamine. That's the instant, easy hit you get from short-form content like TikTok, Reels, and memes. And this is where the trap snaps shut. It creates this really powerful feedback loop. You watch a short video, you get an instant dopamine hit. Your brain loves that, so it starts to prefer those quick, easy rewards. Pretty soon, those slower, more demanding tasks, like reading a chapter in a book, or even just sitting through a whole movie, start to feel almost impossible. But here's where the whole story takes a really fascinating turn. Because brain rot isn't just a clinical way to describe a mental state. For a lot of younger people, it's something else entirely. It's a culture, and it's a language. Let's do a quick fire round. First up, you've definitely heard this one: Riz. It's just short for charisma, how good you are at charming or flirting with someone. Then you've got something called phantom tax. This one comes straight out of streamer culture, and it's basically the playful tax a friend takes when they just snag a bite of your food. And then there's Ohio. And, apologies to the actual state, but online it's become this catch-all term for anything that's just random, weird, or kind of cringeworthy. This quote from a teacher really gets to the heart of it all. When it comes to a word like skibidi, they say, we don't know what it means. And that's the whole point. Some of this is intentionally nonsensical. The absurdity is the joke. So all of this leads to a pretty big generational misunderstanding, doesn't it? Is brain rot a sickness that we need to cure, or is it just a new kind of slang that we need to understand? You can really see the two sides of the coin here. For a lot of adults, it's a clinical issue, a legitimate concern about mental fogginess and cognitive decline. But for so many in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, it's a cultural term. It's a joke, it's a meme, and it's a way to cope with a really chaotic digital world. And this student, Angel Galicia Mendoza, just puts it perfectly. He wrote that this slang isn't about creating chaos. It's about finding a language to make sense of a world that already feels absurd and overwhelming. It's a coping mechanism. So really, what we're looking at is a classic generational gap. Every generation has its own slang. The huge difference now is the sheer speed. The internet has accelerated this whole cycle so much that slang evolves in weeks, not decades, making it harder than ever for different generations to keep up. Okay, so how do we tie these two very different sides of the story together? What is the bigger picture here? Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that both of these things can be true at the same time. The dopamine trap and its effect on our attention spans, yeah, that's a real, valid concern. But at the same time, the language of brain rot is a really creative cultural tool for processing an overwhelming world. And understanding both sides is the only way we're going to bridge this gap. Which leaves us with one final thought. Is brain rot a problem that we need to solve, or is it a culture we simply need to understand? Maybe the real answer is that it's a little bit of both.